Is um, so uh, uh, so I knew Quentin and Sam Raimi were going to be there, and some of my other old friends, and well, Quentin talked me up. When he got up there and did his little. I was going to get up there and talk about how I first met Quentin and I introduced him to Scott Spiegel. But Quentin totally beat me to the punch, told the whole story and told it better than I could have told it. And it's Quentin Tarantino telling the story about how I hooked him up with Scott Spiegel, which hooked him up to Lawrence Bender and all these other folks. That's awesome. Yeah, Scotty and Lawrence, of course, are in Lionheart.
Yeah. So, welcome to part 3 of the fantastic Sheldon Lettich interview. Writer, director extraordinaire, father, husband, grandfather, and just a fantastic human being. Part 3.
And since it's coming up, Veterans Day is coming up. Former Marine also. Say that. Okay.
Former Marine. So just a real kind of subtle badass.
And great friend.
And
Right,
great friend.
Thank you.
So,
guys.
Picking up from where we left off, Sheldon. We left off the last interview, and we're going to pick this one up around Street Fighter. Just take us through that, your involvement in that, and of course, then you moved on. You've been involved in a lot of Van Damme movies.
Well, Street Fighter coincides with the Quest because I was on the set of Street Fighter a few times. They flew me out because I was working on the Quest with Jean-Claude. I not the. I think they hired Frank Dukes. Yeah, they hired Frank Dukes first on my recommendation because I didn't have time to write this project, which Jean-Claude was calling Enter the New Dragon. He wanted me to uh, co-write it with him and co-direct it with him, and I didn't want to do that because and people would have assumed, well, if he's co-directing this one, maybe he co-directed the other ones like Lionheart and Double Impact, and we didn't. Basically, I directed those movies, and John Claude and I worked closely on the fight scenes, of course. But now I didn't want to do Enter the New Dragon, and I was busy doing other projects at the time. Also, I was. Warner Brothers hired me to write G.I. Joe. I was not just writing; they also wanted me to direct the movie. So I was doing that around the same time. So they flew me to Pawtucket, Rhode Island, which is where Hasbro has their headquarters. And I got a tour of Hasbro. They gave me all kinds of GI Joe toys, GI Joe figurines, and so I did I did a couple of drafts for Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers ended up not making the movie, and then they sold it. The rights were sold to Paramount. Paramount ended up making those GI Joe movies, which I had nothing to do with. But I was working on that, so I really didn't feel comfortable jumping onto the Quest. And I told Jean-Claude, why don't you get Frank Dukes to do a draft with you? Because we've known Frank for many years, and the one thing Frank does know a lot about martial arts. He's not a real practitioner, even though he claims to be a competitor, a fighter. He's not, but he knows a lot. He's read a lot about martial arts, and, magazines and books. So I figured Frank might be a good co-writer for you on was Enter the New Dragon at first. And they did bring in another writer because they didn't quite trust Frank to be able to handle it. And this was a studio project. Moshe Diamant was producing it, and I'm forgetting the other guy's name, but he wrote a movie called Enemy Mine and a few other films. You can look them up. But uh, they were flying me to Moshe was flying me to locations where they were shooting Street Fighter because I was working on the script. So they flew me to Australia where they were shooting it. They flew me to Bangkok. So ended up being a pretty cool project for me to work on. And so that's how I ended up being in. I really had no real involvement with Street Fighter, but I was on the set. I was on the set in Bangkok and in Australia, and got to meet Raul Julia who was handing out cigars. He gave me a really nice Cuban cigar. Um, and oh yeah, and Kylie Minogue was there too, and then we were hanging out with her. So I had an interesting time. It was very worthwhile for me. Although you're not going to see my name on the credits because I really didn't contribute anything to it.
So being on the set of Street Fighter, take us through that a little bit. Like how was it? What how was your experience on that? Even though we know you didn't actively work on it, but just being there.
Well, it was being directed by. It was the script was written by Steven D'Souza, and he was directing it also. And he'd never directed a feature film before. Um, and he was pretty much in over his head. Although that happens, look, when uh, you're directing a big feature film, big studio feature film for the first time. Yeah, most people will be over their heads, and they need help from the cinematographers and other people that are working on the film. So he was a bit lost, but they got through it.
Did you contribute to any of the directing?
The only thing,
advice or anything?
The only thing I did, I tried to stay out of Steven's way. I didn't want to step on his toes, so to speak. But one day, Jean-Claude was supposed to, he's supposed to be a military guy, and he's supposed to salute. And he was not doing it correctly. I said, okay, Jean-Claude, this is how you do, Americans do a military salute. So I showed him how to do it, and he did it a couple of times. And then I hear Stevens yelling at me, Sheldon, that's directing. Steven, I'm just showing him how to do a proper military salute. Okay. So I don't want to step on your toes. So let me get out of the way here. But that was my full contribution.
And did he salute? Because I think if I remember,
He does.
he just did a.
It's somewhere. You know what? Maybe they didn't use it in the.
I remember he like tilts his head a little bit and then gives more like a thumbs up or something.
Right. Yeah.
Now, did Jean-Claude come to you and ask you for any advice? Because obviously having worked with him and known him at that point.
Right.
This is 1994.
Mm-hmm.
You've known Jean-Claude now 8 years at this point.
Right.
Obviously, there's a comfort between you guys. Did he come and say, Sheldon, what do you think of this? What do you have when you do? What do you know? Or was it?
No, I didn't want to step on Steven's toes, so I was pretty much trying to just blend into the background, and I was hanging out with Jean-Claude like in the evenings. I wasn't really on the set.
Just there for more like friendship, hanging out.
Well, no, I was there to work on the script of the quest.
The quest.
Yeah, so I'd get together with him in the evening, or we'd go out to dinner, or what.
Did Frank Dukes end up on the set working with you guys in the script?
No, he was never there.
So you come back to LA, you're working on the script, I'm guessing.
I was working on the script more when I came back to LA, yeah.
What happens from there? You at some point leave Thailand or Australia.
Right.
You fly back to the US.
I forgot which one was first. I think maybe Thailand was first. Then I came back to the US, and then now they're moving to Australia. So they fly me to Australia also. So I had a cool time there. Got to meet everybody. Got to be on the set, but was it was not. It's not like being on a set that where James Cameron was directing. Okay, Steven D'Souza, and he did the best he could, but he was, like I said, he was a bit over his head.
What's interesting, I was in Australia with Jean-Claude in 2016. He visited Village Roadshow Studios. That's where they shot.
That's where they were shooting. Yeah.
He brought me into the warehouse and he says, James, this is where we shot Street Fighter. We went for a walk around. And he was just reminiscing on
that's cool.
That time.
Right.
So in regards to the quest, so it was called Enter the New Dragon, you said, right?
Right.
Is that supposed to almost be kind of a tilt your hat to Enter the Dragon? Was it is that kind of why you wanted to do it? Because if you think about it now you said that, the script is a little bit similar. He's there to fight in this tournament, of course, but there's a little bit of other things going on, and
it was really supposed to be a big budget version of Bloodsport.
Okay.
That's what Jean-Claude's been aching to do for years, to come back to Bloodsport. And
still needs to happen. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I did end up writing I got hired to write a script called Bloodsport: A New Beginning. So I worked on that, and that was specifically for Jean-Claude star in it.
What year was that?
I've managed the years.
Yeah, but it's late.
way later. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So you're working on the quest, you're
Yeah.
writing. So when does your involvement stop? How does it stop? When did it stop? Why did it stop?
oh, I turned in my draft.
Oh, so your
Yeah,
job
I'm done
is
with
just
that,
to
yeah.
write.
And then I was on other projects, but yeah. So I did my pass of Enter the New Dragon, and uh, then they brought some other writers in also. Moshe brought in some writers that he'd worked with before. So I didn't really contribute enough to the final screenplay to get credit. So I don't get credit on the credit. And I'm not grousing about it. I've got enough credits where I don't have to, uh, hammer people for credits on movies.
What was your next movie to work with Jean-Claude on after The Quest?
I believe it was either the Hardcore or the Order. It was the Hardcore, I believe.
Legionnaire. You
Huh?
worked on Legionnaire.
Oh, and Legionnaire
So
also.
tell us about Legionnaire, because you and I spoke briefly in the past about that.
Right. You see how you get my timelines mixed up here.
Yeah.
That's right. But I worked on Legionnaire for quite some time, actually. I had originally wanted to do a period French Foreign Legion movie. That was, I pitched that to Stallone. I pitched it to a few other people.
Well, let's just back up a little bit. You were thinking about the French Foreign Legion movie for about 10 years at this point.
Oh, absolutely, yes, yeah. Uh, I had an idea for a French Foreign Legion movie called Legionnaire. I pitched it to a few studios. I actually came close to having a deal at Paramount, and yeah, they wanted to do it. In fact, they even back then we didn't have VCRs. They actually screened um, another French Foreign Legion movie called March or Die, which starred Gene Hackman and I know Max von Sydow was in it. It was a period French Foreign Legion movie, really well done, produced by of all people Jerry Bruckheimer. Jerry Bruckheimer was also a fan of French Foreign Legion movies, so they screened that one for me, um, and we ended up not making a deal on that one. But I was thinking about French Foreign Legion, and then I saw there was a magazine back then in the 80s called M Magazine, M for male, okay, masculine topics. And there was the cover photo was a French Foreign Legionnaire, a present day with the green beret. They weren't wearing a white, they still wear the white kepis, but they also have a green beret that they wear. So, I got that magazine, and I was thinking, once again, I'm thinking French Foreign Legion. So I get called in to meet with Sylvester Stallone, uh, who was looking for a co-writer for Rambo 3. My agent had sent him a script that I wrote called Firebase, which is basically Zulu in Vietnam. It's a big battle movie. And Stallone read it. He loved it. He actually wanted to make it, turn it into a movie. Never happened. But in the meanwhile, so I come there to talk about uh, extensively about Rambo 3. But my agent tells me, bring another project just in case, because he may not talk to you about Rambo 3. We know he's looking for a writer, and that's what he might want to talk to you about. But bring in something else, just so you can switch topics. So I bring in that magazine, the M magazine with Legionnaire on the cover. And his development executive, whose name was Vicky Pasternak, says, so what do you got to show me today? What do you got to talk about?
Excuse me. Let's cut a little here, because that's independent of Van Damme. We want to keep that for your episode, independent of Van Damme.
But it leads to Van Damme.
Right, but
Because
then you're going to repeat it twice.
Okay, but we're going to talk
Okay,
about Legionnaire.
all right,
Yeah.
okay, all right. So it leads to Van Damme.
Because there's a lot of backstory to Legionnaire.
Right.
This is part of the backstory
Okay.
here. So so then Vicky says, Wait, hold on. Just wait right there. I'll be right back. She goes in the back room. She comes back. She's got the exact same magazine. If Stallone had seen that magazine also, and that got him thinking about doing a French Foreign Legion project. So, so we diverged in our concept as to what a French Foreign Legion movie should be. He wanted to do something contemporary. I wanted to do something in the classic period. Um, but he's the one who hired me. So okay, Sly, I'm gonna write what you want. And so I did end up getting hired. I got hired to write that. I had a I think it was a two picture, maybe it was a 3 year deal that I had with Stallone's company, which is called White Eagle Productions. So I wrote two scripts for them. One was Rambo 3, and the other one was French Foreign Legion. So I did write the contemporary version. I was never all that happy with it. And I don't know if Sly was either, because it never went any further from that. But meanwhile, I've been talking to Jean-Claude about French Foreign Legion movie. It's perfect for you. You speak French, you're from Belgium. Um, so we we were talking about it some more, and I came up with uh, we basically put some ideas together. We came up with some characters. So now we had a new version of Legionnaire. And I believe I wrote it up as a treatment, as a short.
When you say a new version, meaning you had a previous version of Legionnaire?
No, this would be uh there wasn't a previous there was a previous version that I pitched to Paramount. I pitched to Stallone.
Gotcha.
But now we had a new version that Jean-Claude and I were talking about. And the basic storyline was that um, he's in Paris. He's going to be Paris in the 1920s, um, and he's got a girl that he's having a relationship with, and she happens to be the girlfriend of a gangster, of like a mafia guy in France. Um, and he runs afoul of this guy because he's a girl. So they're out to kill him, and he ends up joining the French Foreign Legion just to be able to escape. And I think people used to do that back then, guys. They would join the French Foreign Legion. You could, they would give you a new name. In fact, you had to have a new name when you joined, and uh, give you some training. And even the training was not even in France. The training was in uh, Corsica and Algeria back then, actually. So but you get shipped off to another country, and whoever's after you, they they can't find you because you can call the French Foreign Legion. Is there a guy named Alan Lefebvre here? No, we never heard of him. We don't have anybody by that name. So he had a different name. And the idea that I had, and it's very similar to the idea I had in Lionheart and in what's the other one? Basically, where a couple of guys are sent to retrieve them, bring them back. And this actually happened. There actually were instances where somebody took refuge in the French Foreign Legion, and somebody and like a gangster or whatever got a couple of those guys to also join the French Foreign Legion. So that was the basic premise of our story.
Yeah.
So the mafia guy, once he finds out that Jean-Claude's character has joined the French Foreign Legion, there's only one way to track him down. You have to you have to join the French Foreign Legion, and hopefully they're going to send you to the same place, or at least you'll be able to find out where he's at, and you can get yourself stationed in the same place. Uh, this actually happened. There was a case of some kids. His family was killed by a Nazi in World War II. There was a Nazi that was in charge of this group that exterminated his village, and his kids' parents were killed. And he made a vow to himself, "I'm going to find this motherfucker, and I will kill him." when I come face to face with him. We found out that this Nazi had joined the French Foreign Legion after World War II. Man, there were a number of them that did because they had nothing else they could do
And to get out.
after World War II. Yeah, get the hell out, change my name. Nobody will ever know I was a Nazi. Anyways, this kid found out that this guy had joined the French Foreign Legion. So he enlists in the French Foreign Legion and ends up in the station in the same place with this guy, confronts him one day when nobody else is around, and says, "By the way, my name is so and so, and you remember a little village called so and so? You killed my parents there, and I want to kill you." And he did. He
So
actually
tracked
killed
them
them.
down.
Huh?
He tracked them down.
Tracked them down in the French Foreign. Well, that's what's the same. So I did that with
premise.
the premise was basically like, well, actually in Bloodsport I had the same idea in Bloodsport also, but it was this, like guys from the U.S. military were going to track down Frank Dukes at the Kumite. So this is an idea that I've recycled a few times. So, but it works really
It
well.
works because when
Yeah.
until you say it,
Right.
I wasn't thinking it. Now that you say it, I'm like, oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Basically,
Yeah.
Bloodsport and Lionheart.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
So that was our basic premise, and Jean-Claude and I came up with some characters. We came up with all the major characters.
Was Jean-Claude really good at coming up with that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, with characters and
Yeah,
little idiosyncrasies?
he is actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I shared screenplay credit with him on a few of these projects.
Yeah.
Because he really did contribute.
Yeah.
Whereas I've had problems with other writers who felt that they deserved some credit. I'm not quite well, like Frank Dukes, for example.
Yeah.
Um, and I said no.
Yeah.
You really didn't. You haven't written anything down. You haven't contributed much. But Jean-Claude came up with some really good ideas that stuck. Basically, that we stuck with.
Yeah.
With the English.
They had weight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
English, the black guy from America. Uh, so we both came up with these ideas, but he was very much a part of that.
Yeah. That's good.
So Sheldon, were you on the set of Legionnaire?
Um, no, no, I was not, because it's a long story, but basically Peter McDonald, who was hired to be the second unit director, was undermining me when we were doing pre-production, and his sole purpose for doing that was so that he could take my place. He could replace me. Now he did the exact same thing to Russell Mulcahy. Okay, Russell Mulcahy was the original director of Rambo 3. Peter McDonald's hired to be second unit. Peter doesn't want to be second unit. He wants to be the top guy, and basically he undermined Russell while they were doing pre-production, and got Russell fired, and then Peter took over. So he did the same thing to me on Legionnaire. I mean, he's a real snake. He's not. He's actually pretty good at what he does. He started out being a cinematographer, and he worked on some big films. But basically, yeah, he undermined me and Russell Mulcahy, and Russell and I both went on to do other movies afterwards. And Peter's done nothing else besides, as far as director, nothing else besides Legionnaire and Rambo 3.
So were you happy with the finished version of Legionnaire? Like how much of your script is on the screen?
Well, here's the one thing that Peter changed, and he and I, while we were doing pre-production, and I scouted for Legionnaire. I actually went.
So you went to Morocco?
I was all over Morocco. This is before Peter was even involved. When I was just working on the script, I did a lot of research. I went to Morocco. I went all over Morocco. I went to Casablanca, Fez, everywhere in Morocco. Did my research. Went to the French Foreign Legion headquarters near Marseille, a town called Aubagne, where they have their headquarters. So I researched the hell out of the French Foreign Legion, and basically was you know, and what really kills me is that we were doing pre-production. I'm taking the crew out to uh, so here's a location, and I picked the locations too. I picked the freaking locations. We're out on location. So I said, okay, so here's how we're gonna do the scene. Okay, the riffs are gonna come from here, the Legionnaires are gonna be here, yada yada yada, and worked out the whole. And Peter did exactly what I said.
So were you slated to direct this movie?
Yes. Yes. Oh yeah, I was hired to.
Oh, so that's why you're already there lining everything up.
Yes. Yes.
So take us through. So Peter steals that
Who
idea.
made that decision to swap you out?
Ed Pressman
So you're on location. You're lining everything up, and then
with the crew. Yeah, I'm there with the crew. Basically, Peter's basically telling Jean-Claude and Ed that I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Although they end up shooting these scenes exactly the way I laid them out. So that really pissed me off. The movie did turn out well. Peter's he's a good shooter. He was a cameraman and a cinematographer on a number of big movies. He was actually he was a cameraman on Cabaret. Okay, he operated the camera. Cabaret, and he did a few other good sized movies.
And what year is this, James?
This is 1997.
97.
And I'll tell you why. What's an interesting story? Because a little side note, Abdel Kizi is supposed to be in that movie.
Oh, and Legionnaire?
And Mohammed sets it up that I'm supposed to be going to Morocco to be in that movie. But things didn't work out for Abdel and so on and so forth. And I guess it's around the time things changed with you directing and Peter McDonald. A lot of stuff got changed.
Yeah, Kamel Khalifa was in the movie.
Omar Sharif was supposed to be in the movie.
That might have been a name that was thrown around. I don't think he was ever seriously supposed to be in the movie.
Apparently I was told that he was in talks, but
it might have been in talks.
Yeah, it didn't work out. And but yeah, so it was anyway. If memory serves me correctly, it was shot between September and November '97.
So then after that, they shoot it, they wrap. What happens next?
I did all the pre-production.
Yeah,
the movie. I picked the actors.
Yeah.
I basically did auditions, and I'm the one who made all the choices on who the actors are going to be.
Wow.
And then Peter was he disagreed with me on a number of things. He was also supposed to be the producer on it, unfortunately, because I had an action ending in my script. Basically, the way it was supposed to work was Jean-Claude's character, when he's after the big battle at the end, he goes back to France and he wants to basically rescue this girl from the mafia guy now. And one of his Legion buddies goes with him, and by now he's a hardcore Legionnaire. He knows about weapons and tactics and all of this. So he and his buddy, and that changed a couple of times. One time it was going to be Luther, the black guy. Another time it was going to be the Englishman. I believe it ended up being the Englishman. They're supposed to go back, and they track down the girl and the gangster, and it's supposed to be a big shootout where they bring back like some machine guns and things like that. Pretty much what they did at the end of what was the movie that came out recently with the it was directed by this black guy. It's a horror movie. Oh crap, I'm blanking on it now. Because the title doesn't make a lot of sense.
Jordan Peele?
Huh?
Is it Jordan Peele?
No, not Jordan Peele. The guy who directed the the Creed movies.
Oh,
Really good director.
oh my God, yeah, he's good. He's good. What is his name? I'm having a brain fart right now.
Yeah, same here.
I gotta look it up
All right.
now. It's gonna bother me.
But that movie that he did that took place in the South in the 20s. And the two main characters that we're following, they had been in the military in World War One. So at the end of the movie, there's all these zombies in this nightclub. So they brought back some like machine guns and weapons of war, and they end up blowing away all the zombies. Well, that's basically what we had at the end of Legionnaire, where Jean-Claude and one of his buddies
We're going to finish the story pretty much.
They've got some weapons from the French Foreign Legion, and so they get into a gun battle with these mafia guys, and they blow them all away. Jean-Claude ends up killing the mafia boss, rescuing the girl, and that's the way an action movie is supposed to work. Okay, you set it up at the beginning. They're going in the French Foreign Legion. They're going to learn how to handle themselves. They're going to learn how to handle these weapons. And the mafia guy is now going to be in some deep shit because Jean-Claude's now this former legionnaire, and they're going to have this. So there's going to be a big battle. And Peter was saying, oh, that's going to be too expensive. He didn't like the idea of a big battle at the end. That was his taste, not mine. My taste. I'm about action movies. Yeah. Okay, this is an action movie. It starts out being an action movie. It's got to end with a big action scene, and not just the battle at the Legion Fort. There's got to be an action scene in France where he rescues the girl. Okay. Anyways, so that ends up not happening in the movie. That's what really kills the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure you might know, James. How did it perform? I mean,
it didn't do well.
Comparative to say Double Impact, and that's not. I don't think it's comparative. Is it?
Legionnaire did not do that well.
Well, the thing here's the benchmark of it not doing well. It was supposed to be a theatrical release. Okay, we had Ed Pressman got hooked up with some major distributors in France and in Germany and in England. It was going to be a big theatrical release with that lame ending. The ending
is everything. I mean, the ending that makes the movie.
Right. Well, Peter's ending was basically that Jean-Claude comes back. He walks into the bar that this gangster owns, holds out his hand, and the girl takes his hand, and they leave. Okay? Hello. What the hell? So Peter shot that version after they got rid of me. He shot that version. That didn't work at all. Everybody hated it. So they ended up having to cobble together an ending where they used the Kamel Creeper. Kamel got cast as the head of the rebels, the Riffs is what they were called. So they basically had Kamel, it's sort of a deus ex machina at the end. After the big battle, Jean-Claude's the only survivor. And see, in mine, there was Jean-Claude and Luther were going to be the two survivors, and they go back to France. But no, in Peter's version, Jean-Claude is the sole survivor. And Kamel Krifa playing Abdel, forgot the guy's name now, but he's basically the leader of the Riffs. And Kamel's character respects him because he fought so bravely or whatever, and lets him go. Basically, you're free to go. Like, how lame is that? Okay, you're going to see a Van Damme movie. It's about
some damage.
There's all these battles, and Peter actually did a pretty nice job of staging the battles. He's actually good at that stuff. And so then after all this, basically Abdel Krim, that was the name of the leader of the Riffs.
Well, was it a budget problem? Was it a money problem?
Peter just didn't like that ending, the action ending, and it was a money issue too, because that was going to cost a lot of money to shoot. It's like, we had the big battle at the fort, and you see the movie, and you can see that spent some dough on that battle. The fort was built. They actually built that fort the old-fashioned way. We had Moroccans actually with like boxes that they were putting mud into, and they made mud bricks.
That's
And
really
they
cool.
built it.
That's
They built it just like an old Casbah in Morocco. It was very genuine.
That's cool.
Yeah, it wasn't like a typical movie set. So they spent money on that. They spent money. That's a big battle there. Uh, Explosions and lots of extras. So yeah, they spent a lot of dough, and then I think Peter convinced the producers that it's going to be really expensive to shoot this action scene with Jean-Claude coming back to France and getting in a gun battle with these mafia guys. Although that didn't have to be a big scene. Basically, he's there with a machine gun. He's just going to mow them down and have his reconciliation with the girl and rescue the girl and kill the mafia boss. And they're out of that. Okay, so it wasn't going to be that massive of a scene. But
So, what do you think the reason why Legionnaire just didn't quite work as well?
but the ending's so
I
bad.
think that's what it is. Because I mean, I always thought in my mind, I don't know about you, James, but I think like if you go to Double Impact, for example, there's a lot of gunfighting in Double Impact,
Right.
but it's very balanced with also some martial arts
Right.
and some standard fighting and some drama. It's very balanced. Whereas Legionnaire is not quite as balanced in that way.
Well,
Does that make sense?
It's kind of balanced, but then the end is a complete letdown.
Right.
It's a complete letdown, and that's what
I would have just liked to see a little bit more hand
When
to
I
hand.
watched it, I thought, oh, it's finished.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
fight was that.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it goes from that. Yeah.
You just had this huge battle in Morocco, and now it just
There was no closure. That's
no,
in a
that's no
sense.
closure. It
Yeah.
just ends with a whisper.
So after the movie gets released and so on, and then your first communications with Jean-Claude post Legionnaire. Did you guys talk about Legionnaire, the ups and downs? Or was it like, okay, now we're doing the order, Sheldon, let's go?
I think Jean-Claude felt guilty about me getting pushed off of Legionnaire. I spent so much time doing script and pre-production and all of that, and he knew it was a real passion project of mine, and I think he felt really bad about that. So he actually pushed for me to get another movie with Avi. And Avi, actually, it's funny. Avi knew that we had a bit of a falling out because of Legionnaire. I wasn't happy about the situation, and I didn't reconcile with Jean-Claude right away. I was in Israel filming The Last Patrol with Dolph Lundgren, and there was some.
We're in 2000 now, correct?
I guess so. Yeah, right.
2000?
Yeah,
Right. So a couple of years on from Legionnaire.
and there's some pushy guy who was, I think he was either Moroccan, he was some Middle Eastern guy, and he was on. So he came to visit the set. This is one of these guys that's always trying to hook up with movie stars. Yeah. Okay,
So Sheldon, you're on the set,
So
you're on the beach, you're filming The Last Patrol with Dolph Lundgren,
right.
and this individual comes up and says, "You need to talk to Jean-Claude. Take us somewhere."
No, but I saw him earlier because he came to the set.
So he's kind of hanging out on the set.
just kind of hanging out, just trying to ingratiate himself with Dolph Lundgren, ingratiate himself with me, with Jean-Claude. This is one of those guys.
How is he getting on the set? He knows somebody on the crew that's
think he
allowing
did.
him on the set.
Yeah. This is one of these people who knows how to talk their way into situations. Okay, so he was there.
The film industry is full of them.
What's that?
The film industry is full of these guys.
There's so many of them out there. You've met a bunch of them. So, anyways, so now we're on the beach in Tel Aviv, and this guy comes up to me and he says, "Hey, Sheldon, he's got a cell phone. I got somebody on the phone who wants to talk to you." And it's Jean-Claude, and we were both Jean-Claude and I were both like a bit taken aback. Okay, we were both surprised, and we haven't talked to each other for months.
Because he hasn't told Jean-Claude I'm with Sheldon, and he hasn't told you I got Jean-Claude on the phone. He just put you on the phone.
Right, yeah. So hey, there's somebody on the phone who wants to talk to you, and it's Jean-Claude, and like, so we had kind of an awkward conversation, but not an unfriendly conversation. And I think we left it at, hey, well, we're both back in LA. We should try to get together, or something like that. So, anyways, Avi Lerner is working his way up, also trying to get. He was doing some low budget action movies mostly in South Africa. Now he had moved to Bulgaria. Hang on just a second here.
And this is the time around the time when he signed Jean-Claude to the 4-picture deal.
Correct.
Which became the replica in the order Derailed and In Hell.
Right. So even though that guy was a little sleazeball, he actually did pull off something.
He did every Van Damme, Sheldon Lettich fan a favor.
Yeah,
right.
He did.
So we got to, whoever you are, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll look up his name. I think he got his name on Replica.
I know his name, and it won't come to me.
I'll look it up right now, and I'll let you know.
But anyway, so go ahead, Sheldon.
So anyways,
you get on the phone, you talk to Jean-Claude. Avi's kind of the process of moving up in slightly bigger budget movies.
He's trying to move. Look, Avi. What's amazing about Avi is that he made all his dreams come true, big time, because he was like at the time he was making movies with a guy named Frank Zagarino. And then he moved up from Frank Zagarino to Dolph Lundgren. So now
and of course he's a prodigy of the great Menachem Golan.
Correct. Yes.
So he had a good schooling.
That's his schooling was from Menachem. And basically he was using the Menachem formula. You got to get a star with a name, to star in your movie, and the rest of the movie can be complete shit. You don't have to spend any money as long as you've got like a Van Damme or eventually a Stallone or a Schwarzenegger. He ended up doing all that.
There's your producers.
David Dadon,
who
actually produced a few small independent productions.
Right. Yeah. So
I met with him one time, but another story. Back to you, Sheldon.
Yeah. So David Dadon is the one who handed me the cell phone. Hey,
in fact, an interesting little side note. He's at Jean-Claude's wedding in 1999 in Belgium. Jean-Claude and Gladys's wedding.
Right.
So so he was pretty well acquainted with.
He knew how to work his way in to be at weddings, to be on movie sets. He was just really good at.
I'll give you an interesting little side note.
Okay. Yeah.
2003. Scott Adkins says to me, "You want to come with me? I'm meeting somebody today." I says, "I can't." He was trying to get Scott to do a bunch of movies with him. So Scott and I are in Coffee Bean one day, and who is in there? Lo and behold, it's David Dadon. He exchanges numbers. Scott and I talk on the way home, because in those days, Scott and I would hang out. We went for lunch together, we went to train together, and so on. I called him up sometime later, David Dadon, like, I can't remember the time, but sometime later, and he says, "Yeah, come to my office on Wilshire Boulevard." I go to his office. It's actually a condo on the Wilshire corridor, not very far from here. And everything's fine. Appointment time, day. I turn up. I go upstairs. He's with some guy in the room with him. It's just an apartment. It's not an office. And he's short. And the guy he's with short. I'm not that tall, but almost 5'10". I can't see him with the smoke in the room. David Dadon and this guy who was with him is just puffing on cigars. I got there, I think it was a 12 o'clock meeting. They were literally smoking in the room, probably from when they woke up.
Right.
I couldn't see him. I had to crouch down. There was such a cloud of cigar smoke in the room. And when I sat on the chair and talked to him, he told me we were going to do fantastic things, huge movies, and he could hire me for this and that. We never worked together in the slightest. I never saw him since. When I sat down on the chair to talk to him, and he was very nice. There was a cloud of smoke over. So when I stood up again, I could no longer see him. But anyway, an interesting side note. Go ahead.
So, moving on to Avi Lerner. So yeah, Avi was basically moving up. from Frank Zagarino, and he won to Dolph Lundgren. And his goal at the time was Van Damme. I want to get Van Damme in a movie. Okay, so now he's talking to Van Damme, and uh, he invited John Claude and I to have dinner with him up on Sunset Plaza. And the reason he put this dinner together was because he wanted to see if Jean Claude and I had reconciled after Legionnaire.
Dad on.
No, I'm Avi
Avi Lerner.
Lerner. Avi Lerner now. So Avi invited us to dinner, and John Claude and I were really hitting it off. Avi could see that, and so Avi knew that okay, the cloud is lifted, and these two guys are buddies again, so we can do a movie together. Um, and let's yeah, I'm the guy who did Flying Hard and Double Impact, so it made perfect sense to hook me up with John Claude. If you want to do a Van Damme movie, get Sheldon to direct it. Uh, but they did one right before that. They did Replicant with Ringo Lamb, who had also done Van Damme movie before. So that's what led to The Order. And they already had a script for The Order that was written by Les Weldon, who's a guy that's worked for Avi for years, still works for Millennium, been involved with all of the Expendables movies. But Avi's goal was, I want to even get beyond Van Damme. I want to get Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis. He ended up doing all that, which is pretty damn amazing with those Expendables movies.
Well, every movie Avi made, for the most part, was a success in ratio of what the budget was, what it cost to make, and the profits.
Right.
They were all successful movies.
Right. Yeah. I don't think Avi ever had a flop.
Well, probably one or two along the way, but not enough to cause them to sink.
Right.
So you're
So now they had a script. It was written by Les Weldon, and Avi's brother, Danny Lerner, was going to be the line producer, the producer of this movie. And then John Claude and I did some serious rewriting on the script, because the original script, they wanted to do, they were ripping off Black Rain. It was going to be about a New York City detective, but they wanted to shoot it in Israel. They wanted a New York City detective, ends up having to go to Israel to solve some kind of a murder or bring somebody back. I forgot exactly what it was. So that was the basic premise. There was a script already written. And John Claude and I came up with a different approach. Rather than a New York City detective, we wanted to make, I wanted to make Jean-Claude a Belgian, okay? Because he never played it. He's always a Frenchman, or he has to do it. He has to be an American, trying to put on an American accent. And I said, well, why not? Let's do something where you're, but not from the French side of Belgium, but from the other side, from
the Flemish part. The Flemish part.
From the Flemish side. And Jean-Claude's mother was from the Flemish side. And so I wanted to come up with a name, a new character who was Flemish. And actually, Jean-Claude's mother, I wanted to call him Rudy, and then Jean-Claude's mother came up with the last name, which was Kampmeyer. We're having lunch or something with his mom, and I'm looking for a name, a last name, and she said, "What about Kampmeyer?" And I like his name right off the
It's a
bat.
good name. Yeah.
So we made him Rudy Kampmeyer, and then we came up with this idea about him uh, uh, selling artifacts, basically illegally, stealing artifacts and selling them on the black market. So it started taking on kind of an Indiana Jones air at that. We weren't trying to ape Indiana Jones, but it just ended up going in that direction. And I wanted to do something. I was a big fan of a Hitchcock movie called The Man Who Knew Too Much. which takes place in Morocco. And basically, uh, Jimmy Stewart is being pursued by the cops and the bad guys in Morocco. And in case of mistaken identity. And there was another movie I liked that I'd seen that was earlier. That was a Jean-Claude movie called That Man from Rio. And it's the same kind of thing. It's, the cops and the bad guys are chasing him to Rio. But what I liked about it is that it's basically a travelogue of Rio with people shooting at each other in car chases. And The Man Who Knew Too Much was kind of like that too. Basically, we're getting a tour of Morocco. They actually shot in Marrakesh, and then the story ends up coming back to the U.S. So that's the kind of movie I was trying to do. I was trying to do like, and also North by Northwest is like that. So Man Who Knew Too Much. So we're trying to aim a couple of Hitchcock movies and a Belmondo movie, but not Spielberg, not Indiana Jones. But it ended up kind of feeling like we were ripping off that Indiana Jones movie where Sean Connery is his dad.
Yeah.
So we
I didn't put that connection together.
What's that?
I wouldn't have put that connection together. I didn't think that.
Right. And there was artifacts and those Fabergé eggs.
Yeah.
Which kind of fun sequence.
Yeah.
Now, when you shot that, Sheldon, obviously the exteriors are in Israel. But were the interiors shot in Bulgaria, or was everything in Israel?
Well, this is interesting how we ended up shooting this movie. We ended up building sets in Bulgaria because we scouted Israel, and one thing I told Danny Lerner was it's going to be impossible to shoot here because there's crowds, there's all the animosity between the Jews and the Arabs, and one of the scenes where we're running through the streets, we're going to have an impossible time here. And Danny pretty much agreed with that. Uh, and Oh yeah, there was like one time Danny and I were there scouting in Jerusalem, and this whole group of Arab kids, it was like a school group, I think, came to chanting something. And Danny understood Arabic, I didn't. But they were chanting something about, killing all the Jews and kicking them out of Israel. So like Danny realized, you know what, this is not going to go well if we have to shoot this here. So uh, so we had Bulgaria, and Bulgaria was where Avi was shooting lots of movies, and they wanted me to do some shooting in Bulgaria. So we go to Bulgaria and do some scouting there. And what Avi had over there, um, there were two. It was like a sports facility that had two Olympic-sized swimming pools. One of them was out in the open, and the other one was covered. Oh, made a perfect movie studio, actually. And we're in Jerusalem, and I'm looking at some of these courtyards, and I realize, Daddy, take a look at this courtyard. It's basically a swimming pool, isn't it? It's got walls on all four sides. Not walls, but basically people are living there. But basically, we could take that swimming pool in Bulgaria, add some dressing to it, and turn it into a courtyard in Jerusalem, which is what we ended up doing.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we ended up shooting this whole scene that was supposed to take place in Jerusalem. The scene that was very much like That Man from Rio and The Man Who Knew Too Much. Basically, Jean-Claude's being chased through the streets of Jerusalem. But part of it is real Jerusalem and part of it is fake Jerusalem. And what's amazing about that movie is that Israelis don't Israelis who know Jerusalem don't realize that part of it was shot on sets. They asked us, how do you do that whole movie in Jerusalem? Well, actually, we didn't. We actually built the set. So where he's like running around on the rooftops. That's the edge of the swimming pool. So that ended up working out pretty good.
But you did filmed some stuff in Jerusalem with Abdel Kisi and Jean-Claude.
Oh yeah.
So how much did you shoot in Jerusalem? Would you say? Did you shoot 30% of the movie?
I'd say well, for that, the fight with Abdel Kisi, that was on top of the that was the Damascus Gate. So we were actually in Jerusalem with Abdel and Jean-Claude having this fight scene. And one really amusing thing about that shooting there, uh, one thing that the Arabs and the Israelis agreed upon, they were all Van Damme fans. They all loved Jean-Claude. In fact, one of the times I was scouting there, there's this guy selling bootleg videotapes. Or the bootleg videotapes of Van Damme movies.
That's awesome.
Without them knowing that Van Damme was going to shoot there, there's all these Van Damme movies being sold there. Bootleg, of course, so we're not getting residuals from it. So so we're on the real rooftops on top of the Damascus Gate, which is a very famous gate in Jerusalem, and it's Jean-Claude fighting a bunch of Israeli cops. Okay, and a lot of our extras there actually were Russians. They were Russians who had moved to Israel. So we had a lot of so we had a lot of Russians there, and basically it's Van Damme beating the shit out of a bunch of Israeli cops. They're dressed as Israeli cops. Well, we had like hundreds, maybe 1,000 or so Arabs watching this. Okay, so and if you look in the wrong direction, you'd see them like their heads. They were all watching, and when John would beat the shit out of these cops, and I'd say cut. There'd be all kinds of applause and cheers, because hey, look, Van Damme just beat up a bunch of Israeli cops. Right. So our assistant directors, they spoke English, Hebrew, Arabic, whatever needs to be spoken. They was a loudspeaker. They would tell them, "Okay, guys, we're going to shoot this scene now. Everybody, please duck down so that you don't disturb the scene. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to get this movie finished. All right. So would you please do that for us?" Sure enough, hundreds of Arabs duck down. Okay, we don't
Boy, the JC.
we don't see them, and then as soon as I say cut, we see
The head
all the heads popping up.
Did you capture any of this on camera at the time?
I do have some photos of Jean-Claude making his way through the streets into. I had a little camera with me. I actually took some shots, and you actually see him surrounded by a phalanx of like real Israeli security guys and Israeli cops being led towards the set. Because yeah, we had to. Otherwise, people would be rushing up to him and saying, "Please, Mr. Van Damme, an autograph, or please, let me take a picture."
That makes me think, Sheldon. I mean, you have, I mean, I know phones weren't around where you could just video all the time.
Yeah, we did.
But do you have any of that, like behind the scenes footage at some
I do.
point that you've never released, that that maybe one day would get
No,
shown?
I do have some behind the scenes footage. Not footage, but stills.
Still,
Shot.
okay, but not video.
Um, I don't think we shot video. And my wife was there too, and she took a few photos. So I do have photos of Jean-Claude dressed up as this crazy idea I came up with where he would disguise himself as an Orthodox Jew, because you've got them walking all over Jerusalem. They got the beards, the hats. Oh, and there's one other movie that I was aping also. There's another French movie called The Mad Adventures of Rabbi Jacob. And it's a comedy.
Yeah, you feel some comedic element in order for sure. I love
Right.
it.
Well, so The Mad Adventures of Rabbi Jacob, there's some guy who's in trouble with the mafia. And this is in France. And so he has to disguise himself so that the mafia guys won't recognize him. And he dresses up as like a Jewish rabbi with the hat and the beard and all that, and gets chased. I think it's mostly in Paris where it takes place. So that that kind of influenced this also. So it really wasn't. There's no Spielberg or Indiana Jones influence there. It's from Jacob, Alfred Hitchcock, and Jean-Paul Belmondo influenced a lot of this movie.
Well, you got a little bit of comedic chops from JC in this, and honestly,
Oh, right, right.
I think this is, to be honest, I don't remember any other comedic chops coming out until The Order. And if you really look at it, JC's funny, dude.
He's really
You
funny.
look at his stuff that has comedic element to it.
Right.
He's got good timing. He's good with his facial expressions.
The more recent Jean-Claude Van Johnson.
Jean-Claude Van Johnson, he is
comedy.
amazing in that,
Right,
in regards to the comedy.
Now, in The Order, you have, three major fight scenes. You have one with Jean-Claude and Abdel, one with Jean-Claude and Peter Malota, and one with Jean-Claude and Brian Thompson.
Right, right.
Now, where was the Peter Malota and Brian Thompson fight shot? Were they in Israel or were they in Boana Studios in Bulgaria?
Those were in the studios in Bulgaria.
But the actual fight with Abdel was on the real rooftop in Jerusalem.
Although parts of it were on our Jerusalem set in that swimming pool. Like when Abdel and Jean-Claude fall off the rooftops and then crash into some vegetable park below. That was on our set, and it was in that was in Bulgaria.
Where they fall.
Where they fall, yeah.
Is that the only part of that fight scene that was in Bulgaria?
I think so.
So
yeah, most of it is on the actual location.
So who did the choreography for that? Was it worked out between Jean-Claude and Abdel?
Yeah, Jean-Claude Abdel and Peter Malota.
Peter Malota.
Peter Malota.
Who was credited with the fight choreography?
Peter.
Peter.
Right. And what was your shoot days on that fight scene?
Oh, I don't know. I would say, there were so many parts of it. There were parts of it that were shot in Bulgaria, parts of it that were shot in Israel. So
probably couple of days, two,
no,
days.
more than that.
More than that.
How many days did you have to shoot this entire film?
I think we had about 60 days. That's a good.
Now talk to us about the scene on the mountain where Jean-Claude's up on top doing his cut.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which was part of that. Was cut from many releases of that movie.
We had we had a test screening, and there were a bunch of kids there, like college student guys, that were definitely high. They're smoking weed or something, and they laughed at that scene. And so Danny Lerner says, "Oh, we got to cut that scene out." Well, no, Danny, you can't cut that scene. It basically shows Jean-Claude's character getting ready for the final battle. And it's a great looking scene and it's great shots of Jean-Claude. But no, they wanted to cut out just because there had been some laughter from the audience. But the audience, they got over it once you got into the other parts of the story. And not everybody laughed at that. It was just a bunch of college kids.
Now, there's that great picture of yourself, Ross Clarkson, and Jean-Claude at the top of that mountain. Just talk to us about the complexities, because you and I spoke about it briefly in the past. Like, you were very high up there. And it was.
This is a serious mountain in the desert. It was kind of near Jerusalem, but not like walking distance. I'd say it was like 10 miles from Jerusalem. We're out in the Judean desert, and I found this mountain while we were scouting, and I decided that's a great place to do a scene with Jean-Claude, working out, getting himself psyched up for the final battle. Now, to shoot that scene, because it's the direction the light was going to come from where the sun came up, we had to get up early in the morning, like pre-dawn. And look, getting Jean-Claude up pre-dawn is not an easy feat, but he wanted to do it, so we got him up. We drove out there, and then the helicopter had to pick us up. So we got in the helicopter, and the helicopter put us on top of the mountain. And and I had my camera operator with me, Ross Clarkson. There's a great photo of me and Ross, Jean-Claude up there.
Is that the one where he's shirtless?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great
yeah.
photo. Yeah, that really
Yeah.
is a good
And
photo.
Jean-Claude was into it.
He was in terrific shape.
He was into
I was gonna say
it.
he really was
really
a great
was.
chick though.
I have a picture he gave me years ago, right when he was preparing for that. It's a personal picture.
Yeah.
And he probably has less than 5% body fat.
This is kind of a side note. You know, Sheldon, you've worked on quite a few projects with him, and James as well. What film really stands out physique wise to you guys in regards to JC? Because obviously, Blood, Sweat, and Cinema. He's one that signifies each of those
For
categories.
me,
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
talking about bulk size,
Well, I know there's certain
talking about bulk
subjective ways,
size,
but all in
definition,
all, I'd say all in all, aesthetics.
double impact.
Double
Yeah,
impact.
same here.
Double impact.
Same here, yeah.
Because you look at him in Bloodsport, he was bulky. He wasn't as cut. He was more cut in Kickboxer. He was a little lighter than he was in Bloodsport. If you look at him in Cyborg, he's bulkier and not as cut. If you look at him in Lionheart, he's not that bulky and he's not that cut, but he's always in great shape. But if you narrow it down to overall condition, for sure, double impact. Like, yeah, we're talking about the Order. He's in terrific shape in the Order.
Yeah.
He was
Very,
absolutely.
but he's not as big as he was in Double Impact.
And see, so
Part
here's
of
my
the package
question:
of every-
Do you think that it was because you guys both know him very well? Do you think it was a shift deliberately to not care as much about size and go more towards the definition, or do you think that at the time he was more focused on a specific type of training?
Well, I can tell you very
Because it was more bodybuilding style.
I can tell you very specifically because I spoke to him about this. When you start out in a career, you have to have certain things. I mean, if he was very slim in Bloodsport, it wouldn't have had quite the same impact. Because usually most of the guys doing martial arts at that time were very slim. But he was a package deal. You had a really good looking guy with a ton of charisma.
He was an Arnold martial artist.
That was bulky. That could kick like a guy who was 140 pounds when he weighed 180 pounds.
Right.
So as he went on later in his career, he now had a name. So he got getting a little older. Remember when he did the Order, he's now 40. So he doesn't need to carry the ball. So he's trimmed down a little bit, but overall he's in great condition.
Oh,
So
that was amazing.
that's a deliberate choice. Jean-Claude understands training and diet. He knows how to put on 4 or 5
You
pounds
see
of muscle.
even these guys, these massive IFBB pros, including Jay Cutler, stated that's the guy that I wanted to be. That got me into bodybuilding. Jay Cutler himself even said that
I was in Gold's Gym
when he said it, right?
when Jay said that to Jean-Claude, and
Yeah.
in fact, I have that footage.
Yeah.
I filmed him
Yeah.
saying that to Jean-Claude.
I mean, that
I
was
was the one that introduced them.
that's a true testament, honestly, as to I know we're getting sidetracked, but it's just a true testament to what he really brought forth on screen: acting, physicality, comedy, drama. I mean, he had such great charisma, all in all. Just a side note.
He was just a great package, man.
Yeah,
It was
absolutely.
a package deal.
Mhm.
Yeah. So going back to the Order, Sheldon. Everything that we see on screen, was it in the script? Did you add stuff when you're on set? Did you say it was the mountain scene? Was that in the script? Even though you had it made, or did you just find this mountain and go, I want to shoot something, I don't know what it is, and then Jean-Claude goes, well, let me do a kata and put me up there.
It was me wanting to put him up there and do the katas.
But was the kata planned, or he was just going to do something up there?
No, I think I wanted him to do katas. I've seen him do katas before, and it looks great. So I wanted him to be prepping himself for a big battle at the end.
Now I'm guessing you're the one who brought Brian Thompson, having worked with him in 2 movies. Please.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You had him in your very first movie, which was Firefight.
Right.
You had him in Lionheart.
Right.
Which is both you and Jean-Claude's first studio distributed picture. So Brian is a big man, and he doesn't move like Jean-Claude. So how did that? And it's a pretty lengthy fight scene at the end too. I mean, it's not like you did in Lionheart where you just hit him.
Well, I was, to be quite honest, I was not happy with the way that fight scene turned out, and it was here's the elements.
Now
we
here's
have.
my question on that. And then were you not happy with how it was cut? Not happy how it was captured, or not happy how it was choreographed?
Not happy with the way it was choreographed because Jean-Claude. Here's what we had on the set. All right, Jean-Claude's stunt double was David Leitch. David Leitch has gone on to direct some huge action movies like
John Wick.
Bullet Train and
John Wick.
John Wick. Well, actually, it's yeah, David works on those, but it's mostly Chad Stahelski who directs them. But David knows action. He was in great shape, and he was also Jean stunt double on Replicant. Anyway, so David had some great ideas for a fight scene. And then Brian Thompson was in the Conan show at Universal for a number of years. So he played Conan, and Brian was great with swords, because he'd been trained by some of the best on how to use swords. So we had David Leitch and Brian Thompson, and they put together a really cool fight scene using the sword. Jean-Claude doesn't know jack about weapons, about edged weapons. Okay, he can fire a gun. Anybody can fire a gun, but doing a sword fight, doing a knife fight, that takes some skill and some training, and he just didn't have it. And David and Brian put together some cool stuff with a sword, but Jean-Claude just didn't want to do it. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. So we ended up having a fight scene that, for me, is very disappointing. It should have been much. It was like a big final scene at the end of this movie, and I had David knew how to do swords. Brian knew how to do swords. Between the two of them, we could have had some great stuff going on. And David was a really good match for Jean-Claude at the time, so we could have done an awesome scene, but Jean-Claude just didn't want to do it. So, and Peter was there. Peter didn't know much about. Yeah, Peter's good with kicks. He's really good with kicks. But this wasn't about kicks. It was supposed to be swords.
Yes.
It's supposed to be weapons. And Jean-Claude's not good at those. So we ended up putting something together, and we spent a few days on it also. But to me, it's disappointing.
So you would add a little more sword play.
A lot more sword. A lot more sword play. It would have been basically a sword play scene, and which was perfect for the character that Brian was playing. But we ended up not doing it.
So the movie's wrapped. Do you edit the movie back here in New Image Millennium Studios in Los Angeles? Do you do it in Bulgaria?
Well, we did the preliminary in Bulgaria, but then we came back to the U.S. and did the bulk of the.
Were you happy how it performed?
Performed,
financially. Were you happy with it?
Would have been happier if here's the same thing happened on Legionnaire. We got kind of a lame ending, and I think the ending of the order, because that fight scene should have been a spectacular fight scene, but it's not great. It does what it's supposed to do, but not nearly as well as it's supposed to do it. So yeah, I was not really happy with the way that turned out, and the movie didn't end up getting released theatrically either, not in the U.S. It was released theatrically in, I believe, Germany and France and a few other territories.
Now it's been released by different distribution companies, and you've done a few audio commentaries.
Right,
I believe you've done at least one, correct?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and so
the German company wanted the audio commentary.
It's a damn picture, so it always is good because he's got the millions of following around.
Right.
So the order's done, it's wrapped, done and dusted. Your next up for Jean-Claude is hardcore. On the order, you have a cinematic legend, one of the biggest stars, one of the greatest actors of all time, Charlton Heston. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get him? Was it you that found him? You wanted him? And just about working with him.
He he had the same agent as Jean-Claude, Jack Gilardi. And Jack was basically looking for movies to put his client into. Chuck wasn't really doing much at the time. And he thought that that would be, we, we had a role for a character that was going to be Jean-Claude's father. We ended up getting this British guy who none of us liked. Basically, he just got flown in without an audition. He just showed up in the cafe one day. His name was Vernon Dobchev. But we did have a role for the guy who's going to be Jean-Claude's father. Heston thought he was being called in to play Jean-Claude's father, and he liked that idea. So we had to give him the disappointing news. No, actually, you're not playing Jean-Claude's father. First of all, you're an American. It's obvious that you're not from Flanders. So we need to get somebody else who can do an accent. But we got this other role for you that's actually a very important role also, which is Professor Finley. Anyways, we worked it out. It was, Jack Gilardi, God's client, in the movie. And Jean-Claude and I we were just blown away that we're in Israel with Charlton Heston. We're talking about the guy who played Ben-Hur. Yeah. Okay. And here we are with them, making a movie with them in Israel, in Jerusalem. So,
And he played in the Ten Commandments.
And he was Moses in the Ten Commandments. Okay, so we're just blown away by this the whole time. And we managed to come down from it and actually get to work with him. One thing about Heston, the first day he came in to do a rehearsal, because I would always like to do rehearsals like a week ahead of time or a few days ahead of time before we shoot the scene. Not on the day. I prefer to do it beforehand. So Heston comes in, and he's got a suit on, he's got a tie, a vest, and he's got a folder, like a leather folder with the script in it. He's got the script with all of his lines highlighted. Yeah. So basically, Heston is like uh, some actor that's got his first big break in a big movie, and he wants to impress the director. I mean, he was actually wanting to make me feel good about having him in this movie.
A true professional.
He was a true professional, absolutely. So, and he was great to work with the entire time. It wasn't a big, huge role, unfortunately. We couldn't have him play Jean-Claude's father because it just wouldn't have worked because he was not going to try to put on a Flemish accent. He probably could have done it, but it just would have rang false. So we ended up having him play this American character, Professor Finley, and he's got a death scene in there with Jean-Claude kind of hovering over him. So it was just cool. Like I said, Moses and Ben-Hur were working with them in Israel. It just doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Amazing. Okay, cool.
Did you see the timeline?
Well, I'm just going to cut. This is just like
Oh, okay, just an excerpt.
It's just a clip by. Yeah.
We're back.
We're back
We're back.
after an intermission.
Right.
So, Sheldon, you wrapped up the order. A few years later, you jump into another project with Jean-Claude, a very, very good project called The Hardcore.
Right.
So, take us from day one. How did that come about? Oh,
Well, George Saunders, a friend of mine, I've written a few scripts with, he and I came up with this idea. Actually, go back a little further. There was some company, some fly-by-night company, I can't even remember the name of the producer that called me in, but he wanted to put together an action movie with Leon Isaac Kennedy, who I've known for many years, and Don Wilson. They both had the same agent, I believe, at the time. So So he was talking to me about uh, coming up with an idea for Leon. Actually, Leon, I think, is the one that really uh, uh, lit the fuse for this, because Leon's career wasn't really going anywhere. And he and I had written a script. Hang on just a second here. Which I told you about before. He wanted to do a sequel to Lone Wolf McQuade. So I wrote this script, and we ended up, Chuck Norris didn't want to do it. So I came up with a new title, which was Strikers Force. And it was still like Leon. Leon was going to be the black guy, and we needed somebody else to be the white guy. And we even talked to Jean-Claude about it at one time. And we took it to Canon. Canon liked the script. They wanted to do it. But Menachem didn't want Jean-Claude to be in the movie. He wanted Michael Dudikoff to play the white guy. Anyway, that's kind of water under the bridge. So Leon meets some people. They want to do a movie with him, and they want to do a movie with him and Don Wilson, because Leon and Don Wilson had the same agent at the time. I forgot the guy's name.
Ray Cavalier.
Ray Cavalier. So Ray is the one who kind of put this all together. So Leon wants to do that same script, Strikers Force, but instead of Jean-Claude, instead of Michael Dudikoff, Don Wilson will be the white guy. So I meet with Leon and Don Wilson, I think Ray Cavalieri there, and I forgot this producer's name. But this producer was a real fly by night. He really had no money whatsoever. I kept asking, so are you gonna option the script? No, they didn't want to option the script. They just wanted to kind of move forward with this and talk about it, but it was all talk. There was no money on the table. Now I felt the Strikers Force script was it was so much of what we had in it was really obsolete. It's really like early '80s stuff, and I didn't feel it was going to work nowadays. I thought we needed a completely new approach, and so I told Leon, look, let me come up with a new idea for you and Don in an action movie. And I got together with my buddy George Saunders, and so we came up with this idea of somebody like Magic Johnson, that's the black guy, needing a bodyguard. Okay, who's going to be the white guy? Would have been Don Wilson. So we liked the idea, and we wrote it up as a treatment. And then we actually just went right ahead and wrote it as a script. We came up. There's a title. The title I liked for many years, the Hardcore. Actually, my production company is Hardcore Productions. It's just a term that I remember from being in the Marine Corps. And we showed it to this producer. He liked it. He wanted to do it. Okay, so we got this movie we're going to do here with your direct. Oh, and actually, then he brought in Art Camacho. And Art Camacho had directed a few of Don Wilson's movies. So the way that they were talking about this was that, Art Camacho is going to direct it. And I said, oh, no, he's not. If I'm involved with this movie, if it's my script, I'm directing the movie, well, the movie's not happening. Um, we never could get this producer to come up with any money at all. I said, okay, dude, okay, well, we've already written the script, didn't charge anything, and you don't own anything. Nobody owns anything except me and George Saunders, because we basically wrote this script on spec. Even though you're talking about making this movie, you're talking about here's Don Wilson and here's Elijah Kennedy. Nobody has reached in their pocket and pulled their wallet out. So George and I own the script. Anyways, it was just going nowhere. So then Jean-Claude just calls me one day. I'm in my car, phone rings. Hey, I'm talking to this producer, Brad Gravoy, and he's looking for a project to do with me. Do you have anything? And so I say, well, I got this script and it's a full screenplay. It's not an idea. It's not a treatment. It's a screenplay. It's called The Hardcore. Okay. Likes the title. It's about a boxer like Magic Johnson. He has to hire a bodyguard. And the bodyguard ends up falling in love with the boxer's sister. Okay. He's liking all of this. I pitch it to Brad Cavoy. Brad Cavoy's like it. Brad had a deal at Sony. Sony was making some like moderately budgeted action movies at the time. They're doing stuff with Steven Seagal, I believe, and so this fit right in. So Brad reads it. I don't think Brad even read the script. Like, okay, you can have Van Damme and another actor, and it's action. I'm going to send it to Sony. Okay, he sends it to Sony. Yeah, they want to do it as long as the budget's going to be reasonable. We'll do this. And Sheldon Lettich wants to direct it. No problem. He's directed some other Van Damme movies. So this is kind of coming together now. And Brad steps up to the plate like the other guy wouldn't, and he options the script. He actually optioned the script, and it was a pretty decent option too, against the purchase price of whatever the purchase price was. Brad's okay with me directing, so this is all kind of moving forward. And it was that simple to put the initial deal together. And then Brad also had a deal with a producer named Donald Kushner, where they had some stuff going on in Romania. So now we're talking about Romania. Romania ended up becoming the other go-to place for low-budget action movies. So once we start talking a little further about that's where we're going to shoot, well, we have to shoot it in Romania because Donald Kushner's got a deal with the studio with Castel Studios in Romania. We got to shoot in Romania. So they brought me to actually me and Jean-Claude were both there. Jean-Claude was already shooting a movie for Brad. I think it was called Second Command, which I did a little bit of rewriting on for free. Um, so he's shooting Second Command. So they bring me to Bucharest, and Brad says, "Yeah, we want to shoot the entire movie, The Hardcore, in Bucharest." Um, Sets me up with a line producer, takes me around to see Bucharest. Uh, no problem, Bucharest. You can find locations. Looks just like the USA. Well, no, it doesn't. But anyways, we did find a few locations that could work. But there's one thing that we're missing. This is about this black boxer. His sister is also black, and a lot of it takes place among black people in the U.S. Uh, so I drove around Bucharest with this guy to different locations. I didn't see any black people. There's no black people here in Bucharest. So we had a nightclub scene. We had some boxing scenes. Um, it's going to be done with uh, Jean-Claude and this black boxer, and I think he had already talked about Vivica Fox. Then we had some great ideas for the boxer too. We had talked about what about Wesley Snipes to play the boxer? All that. What about blank on the name now? Oh, crap. Brad did a movie called Boat Trip with
Cuba
Vivica
Gooding
Fox.
Jr.
Huh?
Cuba Gooding Jr.
Cuba Gooding Jr. So Brad had already worked with Vivica and Cuba Gooding Jr. They made a movie called Boat Trip. So what about Cuba Gooding?
He's a good boxer too.
And and Wesley Snipes also can fight. So Jean-Claude and Cuba Gooding Jr. would have been cool. Jean-Claude and Wesley Snipes would have been really cool. In fact, people already started talking about it online that Jean-Claude's going to be doing a movie called The Hardcore with Wesley Snipes. Great idea.
Very cool.
Now here's where Brad got cheap. Okay, Brad and Donald Kushner, their theory was, okay, you're making a Van Damme action movie that's going to bring a certain amount of money in. Now, you put Wesley Snipes in the same movie. Okay, yeah, it's cool to have the two of them together, but Wesley Snipes is going to cost us as much as Van Damme costs us because he's going to have a what's called a uh, it was a certain kind of a deal, favored nations deal. Basically, whatever Van Damme gets, okay, if Wesley Snipes is going to be in the movie with him, he gets the same salary, favored nations. Well, Van Damme at the time was getting $3 million. That means Wesley Snipes is going to get $3 million. And Brad was saying that's going to blow the budget out of the water because now we've got $6 million just in talent, not even making a movie. That doesn't work for me. So Vivica Fox was not expensive, no problem getting her, but didn't want to use a name like Wesley Snipes or Cuba Gooding Jr. So I'm saying, so well, who are we going to get to play the boxer? That's the main character, and the guy has to know how to fight. He's got a fight scene with Jean-Claude, and Brad just kept saying, "We're going to get a good actor." In other words, it's somebody who looks the part, but who's cheap, who's inexpensive. Okay, so we ended up. Brad had done Second in Command, and he had a guy named Raz Adodi. And Raz was British. He was black. He was originally from Nigeria, I believe. He was British, spoke with a British accent. But the Brits are really good at learning accents. They're really good at playing Americans. There are many cases of this where you got a Brit or an Australian, they can do it. You get an American to play a Brit, it doesn't always work out so well. Like Kevin Costner and Robin Hood, for example. So they had Raz was in Second in Command, playing a Marine, playing some gunnery sergeant, and he looked good. He looked the part. Didn't know boxing at all. He was just an actor. So Brad was pretty insistent upon getting this guy Raz to play the boxer, and that's how we ended up going. That basically made the movie happen. We had Vivica Fox. Now, had we had Wesley Snipes, and Jean-Claude, and Vivica Fox, uh, we had a great package there to get a theatrical release. We could have gotten a theatrical release of that. But nobody knows what the hell Razzadoti is. Okay? You can't even put him on the poster because who is this guy? Right. All right. Nice guy. And he learned how to do the American accent perfect. Once we started shooting, we're on the set. I see him walking around one day, and looks like he's got a cell phone. And he's talking to somebody on the cell phone. I said, "Hey, Raz, come on, get off the phone, man. We're about to shoot the scene." He said, "Oh, it's not a film. It's a tape recorder." He had gotten a black American guy to basically say every line of his into this tape recorder. Wow. And Raz was walking around basically, it's like doing a looping session. Yeah. He'd listen to the guy, then he'd repeat the line. Listen to the guy, repeat the line. So he got it down where even black people in the U.S. did not realize that this guy Raz was British. So he nailed it. Yeah. We also got him boxing lessons. We ended up shooting up in Vancouver. I'm coming back to Romania now, where they said, well, we had to shoot in Romania, but guys, there's no black people here. So Jean-Claude and I, we leave Romania. We come back to the U.S. We actually went to Canada, went to Vancouver, because Jean-Claude had a condo in Vancouver at the time. We get off the plane. We're driving through Vancouver. You know what? There's a lot of black people here. They're all over the place. Most of them are from the Caribbean, but there's a lot of blacks in Vancouver. They're not typical African Americans who originally came from Alabama or Mississippi. They originally came from the islands, Haiti, Jamaica, but they looked right. They got the right look. We even had a producer we had our local producer in Romania. When I told them about this problem, they said, "Oh, it's not a problem. We'll get a few black actors here, and the other ones we'll just put makeup on them." Okay, that ain't gonna fly with the Fox.
And it's not very politically correct.
No,
either.
no. In fact, you're not gonna be able to release that movie in the US.
Did Jean-Claude hear that story?
I think I did tell it to Jean-Claude.
What was his response?
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah, like just ridiculous.
Yes.
So basically, Romania seemed to be out of the question until we just happened to fly back into Vancouver, and there's all kinds of black people here. So I get on the phone with Brad almost immediately. I say, "Brad, there's a lot of black people here in Vancouver. Why don't we shoot in Vancouver? Vancouver certainly looks like the U.S. much more than Bucharest does." And Jean-Claude's already got an apartment here. Okay, you don't even have to. You don't have to lodge him up. You don't have to get a hotel room for him. So Brad, basically, he's actually very good at producing and making things like that happen. Like I said, the other producers didn't want to spend any money at all. Brad immediately reaches into his pocket and options the script with okays me to direct the movie. And so Brad basically makes a few phone calls, and before you know it, it's got to Vancouver. So now we're going to shoot in Vancouver, which worked out just fantastic.
Vancouver's also very beneficial because you get a good tax rebate.
Correct.
It's a relatively short flight.
Yeah.
They have good crew.
Right.
Jean-Claude had a place there. He shot some of his movies there.
Right.
His highest grossing movie of all time, Time Cop, shot in Vancouver. So he's very familiar with that system.
So he knew Vancouver. He felt very comfortable in Vancouver. So hell, that's Vancouver it is. So we start moving towards production now. So we had Vivica in the cast. Now we had a villain in the cast. Like the main villain. He's black also. And so I think somebody at Sony mentioned, what about DMX? Okay. Now we've really got a great, if we've got Van Damme and Vivica Fox and Wesley Snipes and DMX, we've got a theatrical release for sure. So somewhere during this process, they said, okay, DMX wants to meet with you. They flew me back to LA. We had a meeting at his agent's office in Beverly Hills. And he was in New York, so he had to fly to LA from New York. We have a good meeting. He wants to do the movie. Okay, everything's great. I fly back to Vancouver. Okay, cool. So DMX is playing our bad guy. I get back to Vancouver and I get the bad news, which is that DMX is scheduled to begin a prison sentence right around the time you guys start shooting. So either we push the movie back, or we don't use DMX. And then we had other problems too. DMX is not an easy person to work with, and apparently causes a lot of problems on the set as well. So the bond company and the insurance company both tell Brad, you use DMX and we're pulling out. Okay, you're not going to have a bond. You're not going to have insurance. You can't do it with DMX. So I did end up finding an actor who I really liked in Vancouver. He was a local. We found a lot of black actors up there that were just terrific, and they could certainly do the American accent, no problem at all. So that's how it all came together. I mean, that's when they set the water.
How many shooting days did you have on that movie?
We had enough. I think maybe we had 30 days. And here's another little problem we had. Like I mentioned, Brad will reach into his pocket for certain expenses, but he didn't think we needed a fight choreographer. So we had no fight choreographer.
Why didn't you think? Why? Because he thought JC could.
It's much, yeah. It's, well, look, you and JC, you've done fight scenes before in other movies. We figured we could figure it out.
Swing it.
Yep. And we did. Personally, I think if we had a real fight choreographer, the fight between Raz and Jean-Claude could have been so much better. And it's not bad.
No, I think it was still pretty good.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good fight scene.
Yeah.
I liked it.
It was different for sure than what we've seen in the past. But
Yeah,
I mean, it has its own little.
And they're both in great shape.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, I see what you're saying. You have somebody that can dedicate their time wholeheartedly.
It's not Van Damme versus Bolo in Double
No.
Impact. Okay.
Nothing is.
Although
Maybe Van Damme versus Bolo Bloodsport.
Although I must say, it's as good, if not better, than some of the fights we had in the order.
It's definitely a fight that stands out. I think it stands out.
There was another one that was in the order where the car crashes into a fountain, and then there's a fight with Peter Malota there.
Yeah, that's cool.
And we had David Leitch was there as Jean-Claude's stunt double, and David had great ideas for the fight too. He's ended up becoming a really terrific action actor since then. So we were listening to him and coming up with our own ideas there.
And where'd you guys shoot that fight scene between JC and Raz?
Between JC and Raz?
Yeah.
That was in Vancouver.
Well, like was it like the actual?
Oh, we built.
Was it a gymnasium or? Oh, okay.
No, it was just like a warehouse.
Okay.
And we had a really good art director, and they basically built it. We put all that stuff together.
That's cool.
And so we had a good set. We had a lot of good things on the hardcore. Actually, we found a fantastic mansion that we used for the bad guy's mansion, and most of the actors were really good. We had a nice, really nice scene in a nightclub. There's a fight scene in a nightclub. We actually found just quite a few Black people in that nightclub scene. It was supposed to be an all-Black nightclub where Jean-Claude, as the white bodyguard for the Black boxer, feels a bit out of place, and that ended up being a really good scene. There's a lot of really good scenes.
Really good scenes.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
So after hardcore, what was next with you and Jean-Claude? Because you did work on a couple of others, but quite a while later.
Right. I mean,
you shadowed Ernie Barbarack. You were there.
Right.
Shadow him, but you were there just in case Ernie didn't work out as a director on.
It was called Weapon, and then it ended up being called what was the name?
Assassination Games.
Assassination Games.
Yeah. Now was that the next one up after Hardcore with Jean-Claude, and then was that the last time you were on set with them?
I think that might have been the last time I was on set with him. Yeah.
So what year was that? The last time you directed a movie with Jean-Claude was actually Hardcore, which was 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
So fans,
about time to do another.
Let's get together and get a poll out there. It's
100% time to do another.
Time to get Sheldon and Jean-Claude back together in the driver's seat again.
So actually, on Assassination Games, Scott Adkins was in that one, and I actually fought for Scott to be in that movie because I had met Scott before, and I'd seen him in that Special Forces movie that Isaac Thornton directed, and then he and I got together. I was in Belgium, and I put a call out to people on this Van Damme forum. Hey, I'm going to be in Belgium for a while. Do any of you guys want to come over and have a drink with me? Well, the only person that came over from Europe was Scott Adkins. Scott actually flew to Belgium and met with me in Belgium. So he and I we hit it off really well. So I became a big advocate for Scott.
And you haven't had a chance to work with Scott, which is
mind-blowing. Although I kind of worked with him a little bit on Assassination Games because he he had no idea who or what his character was. Ernie was really not spending time talking to the actors about stuff like that. So I told Scott, you know who your character is? Because he was a sniper and had a sniper rifle and all that. I said, you're James Bond in this movie. Just think of yourself as James Bond, because basically you're this British guy who's an expert with weapons and martial arts and all of this. So that kind of gave him a direction for what he wanted to do, who his character should be. Then, but the thing is, what's interesting is that uh, Jean-Claude's agents did not want Scott to play that character in that movie.
Why do you think it is? Why do you think that is?
Because they had a client, another client. Again, I'm blanking on the name here.
Somebody else they wanted to play.
Who they wanted in the movie. Right.
Now, who made that final decision? Do you know?
I convinced Jean-Claude to use
nice.
Scott.
Nice.
I mean, I really hammered him. I told him, oh crap, I'm blanking on the other. But this other actor was absolutely wrong for playing that character in this movie. So then there was another incident similar to that. My friend Boaz Yakin made a movie called Safe with Jason Statham.
Yeah.
And there's supposed to be a big final fight with this one character, like the main villain. And I was telling Boaz, you need to use Scott Adkins to play that character. And so they met with Scott. It's the same thing, like the agency had another actor that they wanted to put in that role, and they didn't want Scott to do it. But I pretty much convinced Jean-Claude that he should use Scott to play that villain. And actually, Safe, again, like a couple of my other movies, it's got a very lame ending simply because they had somebody who was not a fighter who could have done a cool fight scene. If it was Scott Adkins, that would have been Scott Adkins versus Jason Statham.
Yeah.
That would have been an awesome fight scene. Okay. And they also had Chad Stahelski was working on that film.
And he's a great choreographer.
Yes. So Chad could have choreographed it. So it would have been Jason Statham versus Scott Adkins. How cool would that have been? But as it is, it's a pretty lame, and there's not even a fight. What Boaz decided to do, because he knew the fight was going to be good, the little girl was one of the major characters, ended up shooting the bad guy with a pistol before he can fight Jason Statham. So there's not even a fight between. But how do you end an action movie like that? You got Jason Statham, and you got a bad guy here. You're not going to have them fight, and no, the girl shoots this guy. Now, had they had Scott, I think that movie would have been massively successful.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So after this, the assassination, James, didn't it come about at one point that there was going to be a possible redo of Bloodsport?
Yes, yeah. So that was I was going to be Bloodsport: A New Beginning. So I got hired to write this, and actually Daniel Bernhardt is the one who kind of put this together, because there was a guy named Alberto Lenzi, Italian, who I've met a number of times, very wealthy, and he had bought the rights from FM Entertainment. I'm forgetting the guy's name now, but Egyptian guy who bought the rights from Mark LaSalle. And Alberto Lenzi now bought the rights from this guy. So he had the rights to do Bloodsport, to use that title.
Yeah.
Daniel Bernhardt had been in the other Bloodsport sequels. But they weren't really sequels to Bloodsport. In fact, the character's name, Frank Dukes, was not even used, because Frank was threatening to sue them unless they used his real Frank Dukes story about all of his CIA work after Bloodsport. So they just decided, you know what, we're going to give the guy a different name. It won't be Frank Dukes
It was
anymore.
Alex Cordova.
Yeah, yeah.
Alex Cordell, right. And Frank actually sued the producers, but didn't win. As well, Frank sues people all the time and never wins. So he uh so anyways, Alberto Lenzi he had the right to use the title Bloodsport. So he wanted to do this a new version called Bloodsport: A New Beginning. And the one who got me involved was Daniel Bernhardt. And I had done a movie with Daniel in the interim called Perfect Target, which we shot in Mexico, which had none other than Chad Stahelski as our fight choreographer. And I must say, Chad is the best fight choreographer I ever worked with. This guy was just amazing. He had a little pad of paper and he'd just write down all the fight moves in order. This, and that. And then get in there with the actors, and he would actually do them one by one. Okay. Oh, now we're supposed to do this move. Now we're supposed to do this move. And he would just go right through his list, and the fights looked fantastic.
That's good.
So that was Chad and Chad came into the picture because he was a fight choreographer on Bloodsport too, which Daniel was in. So anyway, so now we've got Bloodsport: A New Beginning, and I get hired to write the screenplay, and I'm also going to direct the movie. Um, and uh, I write the script, and but I told Alberto. Alberto wanted this. He said, "The only way we'll make this movie if it's going to get a theatrical release. I want it to be guaranteed a theatrical release." And I said, Alberto, unless you have Van Damme in this movie, it's called Bloodsport. If you don't have Van Damme in it, it's not going to get a theatrical release. But, not trying to put Daniel Bernhardt down, but basically, he's not the name you need above the title to get a theatrical release. So how do I get Van Damme? I don't think he'll want to do a sequel to Bloodsport, I said, because he's kind of moved on. He's doing other things. So, anyways, so we're moving forward. So the script is done, and I'm in Santa Monica having lunch somewhere. My cell phone rings, and it's Alberto. Hey, I'm in town. I'm in LA. Can we meet tonight? Let's have dinner tonight, and we'll talk about Bloodsport: A New Beginning. No problem. Okay, I'll see you tonight. Before I can hang up with him, my phone's ringing again. All right. Jean-Claude Van Damme. Like, Alberto, you're not going to believe this. Jean-Claude's calling me. Oh, okay, we take the call. See what he wants. And like, okay, this is just too crazy of a coincidence, but this is what happened. Okay. So now I'm talking to Jean-Claude, and I tell him, hey, I just hung up with this guy, Alberto Lenzi, who has the rights to Bloodsport, and he wants to do a sequel. Uh, and he would like for you to be in the movie, but I told him I didn't think you'd want to do a sequel to Bloodsport because you've done so many other sequels already. He said, "What? You crazy? Of course I do a sequel to Bloodsport." Okay. Well, Alberta, where are you, Jean-Claude? Oh, I'm in LA. I'm in Santa Monica right now. Okay. Um, would you want to meet this guy Alberto tonight? He wants to have dinner with me. Yeah, let's go meet the guy. Okay, so we meet at Medeo. We decide to meet at Medeo, all right, which is right below where ICM used to be. That's one of Steven Seagal's favorite restaurants, also. Uh, anyways, so we all get together at Medeo. Now, one other wrinkle here, a big wrinkle. Daniel Bernhardt, who's the one that kind of got this set up, introduced me to Alberto. And Daniel, and when we were setting up Bloodsport: A New Beginning, Daniel was going to be the star of it. And as I told Alberto, it won't get, most likely, you will not get a theatrical release if Daniel is starring in it. It's only going to get a theatrical if you get Jean-Claude starring in it. Okay, so now I'm talking to Van Damme and Alberto. All right, so Jean-Claude, you want to meet us at Medeo tonight? Yeah, sure, I'll be there. And so we're all there. Daniel, by the way, I couldn't get Daniel to be part of this meeting because he's in Bulgaria shooting a movie for Avi Lerner called Tornado. It's like a disaster movie, low budget disaster movie, but he was starring. He's in Bulgaria. I tried to call him and tell him about this, and the phone service in Bulgaria is not great. I can't get through to him because I wanted to tell him about this meeting. So, so we meet at Medeo, and everything is going well. And so Jean-Claude says, so who's directing this movie? And we're all we're all kind of stuck for a minute. And finally somebody says, well, Daniel Bernhardt wants to direct it. And he says, no fucking way. Why isn't Sheldon directing this movie? Well, because Daniel's the one who has got everything set up like that. No, I'm not dealing with Daniel. Okay. If Sheldon directs it, I can do this movie. All right. So that's pretty much a fait accompli now. Right. So, okay, everybody's happy. Jean-Claude's happy. Alberto's happy. Okay, I got Van Damme. I've got the director. But nobody wants Daniel to be involved with it. So
like not at all now. Like,
well, that's how I try to work this out with Alberto.
Yeah.
So that Daniel isn't just totally totally trampled in the mud. And so look, what can we do with Daniel? Okay. Daniel can play another role in the movie. He won't be the star. And we can make him the second unit director, action director, whatever. Basically, we were all trying to find a way to make it work where I'm directing and Jean-Claude starring, and Daniel is going to get, like, say, second unit director on a movie like this. That's not a bad gig to have, especially if somebody who wants to be a director. Okay, so you're second unit director on this movie, and then your next one you can direct. Anyways, we're all nervous about this, okay? Because we are kind of screwing the guy over, but that's just what the circumstances were.
it's business.
It's
times,
it's business.
Unfortunately.
Basically, nobody wants Daniel Bernhardt to direct this movie. Nobody really wants Daniel Bernhardt to star in the movie, unless we're okay with it going straight to video, which Alberto was not good with that.
You got to take a
And
realistic.
we got Van Damme sitting right in front of us who wants to do it. So Van Damme is starring in the movie, right? Sheldon's directing it.
And what year was it, Sheldon? Just so
2010, I believe.
2010.
Oh, okay.
James always got the dates.
You're my time geek.
He's the date guy.
15 years already. Wow.
Yeah. So obviously, when I finally did talk to Daniel, he finally came back from.
So you were tasked with how to
Correct. Yeah.
get this news today.
Yeah. Wait, here's another part of it too. It's very important. Jean-Claude asked me, "Are you sure this guy's got the rights to do Bloodsport?" Well, he says he does, but I can't tell you with 100% certainty that he's doing it. And Jean-Claude and Alberto had some very high-profile attorneys for a company called Loeb and Loeb, a very big legal firm. And Jean-Claude's got Jake Bloom, which is his attorney. Bloom, Deckham, Hurga. And so after we have this meeting, where we're all getting along great in the meeting, John basically says, I need to see some paperwork. I need to be sure that you really own the rights. And Alberto says, no problem. You get in touch with Loeb and Loeb tomorrow. they'll send you all the paperwork and get it all taken care of. And sure enough, Logan Loke, Alberto did have the rights to Bloodsport. He basically paid for them. He had the rights to Bloodsport. So basically, you want to do Bloodsport, Alberto Lenz's got to be part of it.
He still has the rights to the stick.
He does, yeah. And actually, taking it a little further, then Ed Pressman. Hang on a second here. I'll choke up when I talk about this. So now Ed Pressman comes into the picture, and Ed had produced Legionnaire, so Ed knew Jean-Claude, and Ed Pressman makes inquiries about Bloodsport. He wants to do a sequel to Bloodsport with Van Damme. And so he's got to go to Alberto, and they worked out a deal. Ed Pressman and Alberto Lenz had worked out a deal where Ed can produce the movie. Ed hired the guy who wrote the Karate Kid movies, the original Karate Kid movies, to write a new screenplay.
Robert Mark Kamen.
Yeah. Robert Mark Kamen. So Robert Mark Kamen wrote the screenplay. And I know it was going to take place in South America. It was going to take place in Brazil. And there's a competition there called, I think, Vale Tudo or something.
Value to you.
Valley Tudo. All right. So that was going to work into it. And the guy, the Jean-Claude Frank Duke's character is going to be a Afghanistan and Iraq veteran who gets involved with these underground fights. But I wasn't directing it anymore. Now he had, I can't remember the guy's name. It's a guy who's directed some very big A-list movies. We could look it up. I think it's still on IMDb at Prescott. And
let's look it up while you're talking.
yeah, this other guy that was going to direct the movie. It's far more credentials.
Philip Noyce.
Huh?
Philip Noyce.
Philip Noyce.
Okay.
Philip Noyce, yeah. So that was kind of moving forward. I don't know if they were even talking about Van Damme starring at this point. It kind of moved away from that, and now it became this new version of Bloodsport with Philip Noyce directing, Robert Kamen writing it, Ed Preston and Alberto Lenzi were going to produce it. Somehow it just never came together. They never ended up. I think maybe they might have done some pre-production, but the movie never happened.
Well, I've heard like noise that it's still kind of circulating.
Yeah, I don't think
it's about a series and
Right,
stuff like
right.
that. Like there's been noise about it still. I even heard at one point, I can't remember, but me and you had talked about this before. Mark Wahlberg's company had shown interest.
Actually, A24 has announced that they're trying to make a new version of Bloodsport, not a sequel.
Yeah.
Basically,
So Alberto has been working with them.
Most likely, yeah.
So to back up though,
Yeah.
so you were left with the task of talking to Daniel Bernhardt.
Right.
Yeah, how's that?
That didn't go well. Yeah. Daniel thought that I totally stabbed him in the back, that I took advantage of him while he was out of the country, which is completely not what happened. But how do you explain that?
Yeah.
Okay, it just seemed.
And I can understand him thinking that.
I can understand him thinking that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, it didn't end well.
So maybe it'll come back around.
Well, A24 they've been doing huge Oscar-winning movies.
But maybe it's going to come back around that it'll be Van Damme and Sheldon Lettich again. You never know.
You never know.
You just don't know.
But when it comes to Bloodsport, man, I'm sorry, just my.
You can't remake it, but
with just my opinion, man. The only time I'm getting excited, no matter if it's whatever it is. If it's Bloodsport, I'm getting excited.
Right.
But where I really reach the pinnacle of excitement is bringing back the old crew. I mean, he's got to be Frank Dukes, in my opinion. I know that it's a problem, whatever. There's logistical problems there, but
there's legal problems.
I mean, you have to do it right.
Well, a lot of
he's got to be Frank Dukes.
But a lot of the problems for sequels and remakes to these movies, and you and I have spoke about this, is not logistical issues, it's not actor issues, it's none of that.
Legal
It's legal issues.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't know who owns distribution
Yeah.
rights here and there.
Yeah, that's why we've had an impossible time doing a Lionheart.
Yes. Like we talked about that a million times.
Double Impact also is
Double
owned by
Impact
lots of the sequel rights are owned by a number of different companies that Moshe Diamant sold the rights to, and they all have to agree and they all have to get on board. And they all
And we
have to
looked
get-
at some people to try to find those Lionheart rights. I mean, this was just last year we were trying to figure it out. So we
Right,
had to
right.
do something with it. And it's been a pain in the ass, you know.
Yeah, there's a guy named Etchy Stroh who I believe has some of the Lionheart.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
He got those. He got them from Imperial.
I'd have to look at my notes, but yeah, we did some deep diving.
Actually still owns,
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
you know, or at least did a year ago.
yeah.
right,
So-
right.
Okay, Sheldon. Thank you very much for coming in. We'll see you in the next episode.
I wore my vocal cords out completely.
Yeah.
No.